When it comes to high risk, high reward, the SH1900 lives up to its reputation. A weapon that brings devastating damage to any unfortunate soul at the end of its barrel. That's only if you're hitting your shots, of course. Because the risk part of this weapon, well, I'm going to be honest with you, is quite punishing to say the least. So in this masterclass, we're going to go over all the ins and outs of the SH1900, how to play to its strengths, as well as compensate for its weaknesses, what specializations and gadgets will enhance the potency of this weapon, and lastly, an in-game training routine to ensure that you make every shot count. But before we get into that, please smash that like button. It's a small button for you, but truly helps out the channel and means the world to me. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe for all things the finals. Also, for your convenience, I've left timestamps in the description. So without further ado, let's jump into it. The SH1900 can do a total of 195 damage per shot, equating to 390 damage per mag. This essentially means it can one-shot a light and two-shot both medium and heavy. This is extremely deadly when combined with the speed and maneuverability of the light class, allowing you to quickly get into an engagement, do an insane amount of damage, and to also quickly disengage when the battlefield gets too hot. This will provide your team with the opportunity to come in and clean up any remaining opponents. It will also allow you to effortlessly clean up any weak opponents that your teammates may have left behind. Along with its insane burst damage, the SH1900 has another strength similar to the 1887 shotgun. This, of course, is the capability to maintain its hipfire accuracy while sprinting as well as sprint strafing, allowing you to run and gun in the truest sense, and looking insanely cool while doing it. On that note, if you want to record those crazy moments, edit, or stream it for the world to see, look no further because my partners at Apex Gaming PCs will hook you up. With the Apex Streamer Plus, this PC comes with a standard AMD Ryzen 5 7600X, 32GB of DDR5 RAM, and an RTX 4060 Ti, creating a PC that is streaming ready, which can deliver in both performance and aesthetics. Not to mention, it also comes with an Apex standard 2-year parts and lifetime labor warranty. So if you're looking to make that leap from console or even start your creator journey, the Apex Streamer Plus is more than capable to get the job done. Also, don't forget to use code HAZED for 10% off your purchase. Now, let's get back to it. With the massive benefits that the SH1900 has to offer, there is a caveat. You're going to have to be close to reap those benefits. And there lies the risk with this weapon, because if you fire the first shot too early, it can be a death sentence for the player. Understanding the opponents that you are facing and assessing the priority of each target is crucial for this weapon. The strength of the SH1900 again is its ability to do quick burst damage, allowing the player to select a target and pick them off extremely fast, then leave the engagement and creating an opening for their team to clean up the weakened opponents. But the key to this is ensuring that the player eliminated removes the opposing team's ability to recover. In other words, medium's healing beam and defibrillator. But if that's not available, or there are multiple mediums on the opposing team, the priority is shifted to the one that is straying or distracted. With the SH1900, you want to do everything in your power to always engage in an off angle. You rarely want to take a fight head on against any type of ranged weapon. You may be able to get away with it when going up against a light because it only takes one shot to eliminate them. However, when facing a medium or heavy player, you will lose this engagement 9 out of 10 times while trying to close the gap. So always ensure that the start of the fight is slightly in your favor. This is especially true for heavy, and I would even go as far as saying to avoid directly engaging them at all costs, and ensure that they are either stunned or, again, distracted before doing so. Because the heavy class has a multitude of weapons they can use to easily eliminate you within the effective ranges of the SH1900. Now, besides what classes to prioritize, we also have to consider the map that we are playing on. While there are maps that play to the strength of this weapon with more opportunities for close engagements, there are also maps that do the exact opposite and really puts this weapon at a disadvantage. However, we can compensate for those disadvantages with the use of specializations and gadgets that will allow the player to not only close the gap, but even provide devastating poke damage, thus forcing them to disengage and recover, which will allow your team to push forward without worrying about oppressive fire from the enemy team. Fortunately for Light, all three specializations are capable of performing this task, and when trying to enhance this weapon's effectiveness, the hardest part is learning how to conservatively use your specialization and gadgets rather than spamming it. Regardless of what specialization is used, try to make sure you have all your charges before going into a fight, because those charges are going to be the reason you survive that engagement if you miss, and will also provide a way for you to remove yourself completely from the fight if you do manage to eliminate one of the enemy teammates, thus allowing you to recover, recalibrate, and re-engage. Now, there are a multitude of gadgets that can be paired with every specialization to compensate for that specialization's weak points when it comes to closing the gap and getting into the SH1900's effective ranges. In this video, however, I'm just going to list the ones that I personally recommend and find very effective. First being the Vanishing Bomb. It will allow you to have the element of surprise without needing to spec Cloak. More importantly, it'll give you the opportunity to get into the range of effectiveness, or at least most of the way there. The Gateway. This will provide the player with vertical movement to close the gap without having to equip Grapple Hook. You can also quickly ambush any opponent that is pursuing you by throwing up one gateway node in the air, waiting for the opponent to pass under it, and the other in front of you, then teleport and surprise them from behind. You can even apply the same concept when pushing, or even protecting a cash out. Up next is the Sonar Grenade. This will provide you vital information for when and where to ambush your opponent. And lastly, the Stun Gun. I'll be frank with you, if I was running with a team that was pre-made, I wouldn't be using this gadget at all. I personally just don't find it that enjoyable to use or even go up against, but I cannot deny its effectiveness when it comes to immobilizing players and making them easy targets. With that being said though, the only reason why I have it equipped in a lot of my gameplay is because again, I solo queue, and I want to make sure that I personally have a way and means of stalling the cash out when my team is not able to. I want to be clear though and say that it is not mandatory to use all these gadgets in your build. You can simply add one of the gadgets I previously mentioned and fill the rest of the slots with whichever gadgets fits your playstyle the most. So now that we have a better understanding of how the SH1900 works, let's jump into the practice range. Before getting started, I want you to go into your menu and simplify your crosshair, leaving only the dot behind, making the dot small enough so that you can still see it, but big enough to not be intrusive. The reason for this is to rewire the way you aim, to ensure that where you're aiming is where your eyes are looking at, by looking past the reticle and prioritizing the model in front of you. This is what is known as model aiming. What I want you to do next is go to a wall, get within 3 meters or less, then fire your weapon. Now if we look at the bullet cluster, we see it is extremely compact. This is part of the reason why a lot of players miss with the SH1900, because when they fire the weapon, they assume that the closer they are to the opponent, the better chance they have of landing their shots, and don't take into consideration how compact the bullet cluster is when first coming out of the barrel. From extensive use, the optimal range I've come to find is between 5 to 7 meters. This will provide more room for error with a wider bullet spread, while still landing the majority of the bullets in the cluster on your target, and will make it easier to acquire and track the target. Also utilize hip firing for the entirety of this routine. This is one of the biggest advantages for this weapon, and it would be a shame not to learn how to utilize it. So for our warm-up, we're going to make our way to the top of this roof and center the light moving target within the optimal ranges of 5 to 7 meters, and maintaining centering strictly by model aiming, only using the reticle as a reference point as to where the center is. Now when you're doing this warm-up, I want you to remain constantly active and completely focus on ensuring you maintain the target for every single second of those 5 minutes. Because if your aim slightly veers off to the left or right of the dummy, you will miss crucial bullets in that burst needed to eliminate the opponent. That's why minimizing the amount of time the target is not centered is crucial for consistency when using the SH1900. Do this non-stop, hard focus for 5 minutes. When you've completed the warm-up, we will start with our first scenario, where we will continue to track that light target, but this time I want you to eliminate it within one shot. When the target respawns, reacquire it and maintain centering up until the point of firing. This will not only help with target acquisition and click timing, but also train you to start tracking earlier rather than right before you get into the range of effectiveness, and also drill into the player the importance of landing the first shot, because if you miss, the likelihood of you losing that engagement increases dramatically. Do this 15 times, and if you miss your first shot, don't cheat, reload, and try again. Next, we're going to make our way down to the first medium target and maintain centering just like we did in the first scenario. And I want you to eliminate it in one mag while moving around the target and again maintaining a 5 to 7 meter distance. Now, this is when tracking plays a huge role, because when firing the first shot, for some reason a lot of players have built the habit of pausing their tracking for around half a second. I see this all the time when observing players use the 1887 shotgun, just to either verify they landed their shot, or perhaps they got distracted by the visual recoil of the gun. Regardless, this slight deviation from the target will cause you to lose a lot of your engagements, because while your tracking may have paused, I guarantee you, in high stress situations, your trigger finger has it, causing the player to fire it where the target once was, rather than where the target presently is. So please, I cannot stress this enough, be mentally aware of where your target is and whether or not it is centered on the screen at all times. You can also prevent misfiring by pacing your shots and waiting for the reticle to set before firing again. Eliminate the target 10 times with one mag before moving on. The last part of this routine is called the trifecta. The goal in this scenario is to attempt to eliminate each class within one mag. We're going to start with eliminating the back medium moving targets. From there, we're going to eliminate both light targets on the box, return to the medium target and eliminate it again. Then from there, we're going to eliminate the stationary heavy target. When the cycle is completed, rinse, wash, and repeat. If you miss your shots, make the target into a pivot point and circle around it while maintaining centering. This will make you as evasive as possible, helping you survive the 2.6 seconds to reload and allow us to possibly re-engage the opponent. Do this for 5 minutes straight. So that's about it for the training routine and the practice range. However, we're not done yet, because we're going to apply these methods in an environment that allows us for non-stop live engagements, which would be, of course, Bank It. Now, please don't disregard the objective completely when doing this, but just be cognitively aware that every time you start an engagement, prioritize aim first and actively focus on training model tracking while maintaining a 5 to 7 meter distance. If you are missing a lot of shots, try to slow things down a little bit and take your time to aim, because remember, each one of these shots do a massive amount of damage, so make each bullet count. I want to be clear here and give you guys a disclaimer, because even I went through this. It's going to be hard at first, and it's going to suck when you start doing this. You're going to miss a lot of shots, but I promise you, you're going to get better, and this is going to become easier when your hand and eye coordination start to synchronize. Play Bank It for a few matches until you are warmed up. And that's about it. The SH1900 is an easy weapon to use, however, a difficult one to master. It requires not only focus, but great attention to detail, because if the player is even slightly lazy with their tracking, it will more than surely result in them losing the engagement. However, if mastered, the satisfaction and reward this weapon can provide knows no bounds, from the damage you can pump out in rapid succession, all the way to how cool you look while doing it. So although the risk may be high, the reward is well worth it. Hope you guys enjoyed this masterclass. If you found it useful, please smash that like button and subscribe for all things to finals. Peace and love, guys, and I'll see you in the arena.